TSC teachers to continue receiving their salaries as BOMs and Private employed in Dilma. As teachers employed by private schools are struggling with most of them sent at home on compulsory leave and receiving no enumeration. Teachers in public primary, secondary, teacher training and technical colleges employed by the government will continue to enjoy salaries for no work, at least for now. Proprietors of private schools are in dilemma over how to pay salaries for hundreds of teachers and non-teaching staff in the wake of coronavirus pandemic that has forced the government to close all schools. Most private institutions are struggling to meet operational costs. Parents who owe the institutions millions of shillings are withholding payments in a wait-and-see game over the pandemic while others have already lost their jobs. With CS Macharia order to return paid fees in advance, this adds salt to injury as the schools will lack financial muscle. Despite this, the government-employed teachers will continue earning their salary despite of not working as students are at home due to COVID-19 pandemic. However, teachers employed by the Board of Management as well as other non-teaching staff face uncertainty as the government is non-committal on releasing funding to schools. Schools were closed in March following the first case of coronavirus disease, COVID-19, in the country and close to 320,000 teachers employed by the Teachers Service Commission, TSC, currently retreated home. With government officially suspending learning in pre-primary, primary, and secondary schools until January next year, teachers will by end of the year have earned 9 months' worth of salary without work. A number of them have expressed fears that their salaries could interest the government. However, TSC has now confirmed that they should not worry. As of now, there is no plan to stop paying teachers. This is because it is not the teacher who has refused to go to class. Schools are closed due to the COVID-19. If the teacher is called upon to resume teaching, they will do so the following day, so long as conditions are right, said Beatrice Wababu, TSC Director of Communications. She said the Commission cannot penalize the teachers for a problem they did not create until it is decided otherwise. According to TSC records, teachers in public schools are paid 20.6 billion Kenya shillings in salaries per month, bringing the annual cost in salaries to 247.2 billion Kenya shillings. The teachers also enjoy a medical cover by Aon Minute. The cover cost TSC 9 billion Kenya shillings last year. It will cost the Commission 12 billion Kenya shillings this year and 14 billion Kenya shillings next year. Under the scheme, teachers have their inpatient medical benefits raised to 750,000 Kenya shillings for those under the lowest job group G, or B5, to a maximum of 2.5 million Kenya shillings for highest paid staff under job group R, or D4. Overall, some 1,006,673 beneficiaries are registered under the scheme. Kenya Secondary Schools Heads Association, KESA, Chairman Kahi Ndimuli says teachers are ready to go back to class anytime and should not be victimized. If the situation changes now, teachers will go back to class. So we should not be punished for a problem we did not create, Mr. Ndimuli said. Kenya National Union of Teachers, NUT, Secretary General Wilson Sawson said the teachers are protected by the collective bargaining agreements, CBA, they have with their employer and this should be respected. Our focus now should be on looking at ways on how to improve infrastructure in our schools and other measures to fight COVID-19 in readiness to reopen. UNESCO and WHO, in their advisories for reopening schools across the world, have called for the protection of teachers' salaries, Sawson said. While teachers were getting their assurances on their salaries, parents who had paid a whole year's fees were a worried lot yesterday. But CS George Macharia gave them relief after he instructed school principals and boards of management, BOMs, to agree on what should be done to fees paid. Let BOMs agree with parents who had paid fees for second and third term and see whether the money can be refunded or carried forward to next year, Professor Macharia said in a meeting in Voi yesterday. According to a circular from the Ministry of Education, signed by Principal Secretary Dr. Balio Kipsang, the government spends Sh13 billion on free primary education, FPE, and about Sh60 billion on free day secondary education, FDSE, program annually, but parents in public boarding secondary schools spend about 100 billion Kenya shillings in fees on their children. The cumulative sum the government and parents spend on secondary school with parents paying between Sh40,000 and Sh53,000 in boarding schools was 160 billion Kenya shillings, which posed serious control and risk challenges in schools, Kipsang said, adding that the ministry closely works with its auditors to ensure the money is well spent. Disbursement of capitation to schools is done in the ratio of 50 hours 30 minutes and 20 seconds ratio. The first disbursement is normally done in November to cover for the first term, the following year. Subsequent ones are done in April and August. The government will use enrollment data in NEMIs to disperse the funds, Kipsang said. Point 4. Indimuli and Kenya Primary Schools Heads Association, KEPSHA, Chairman Nicholas Gatamia confirmed the first tranche of capitation, covering 50% of the total government funds, was sent to schools last term. The first disbursement was done, but not the second and third. We request the government to release the second because schools are not just about children. Schools are also employers, they employ BOM teachers and other non-teaching staff, Indimuli said. He said many schools have not paid BOM teachers since March. The government can hold the tuition fees but give the rest of the money in line with President Uhuru Kenyatta's directive that we cushion our employees during this time. Schools rely on government capitation and parents' fees. Now that parents will not pay for the rest of the year, it is prudent for government to release the funds so that we can pay our workers, electricity and other maintenance costs. I am aware that Kenya Power has started disconnecting power in some schools due to debts, Indimuli said. On fees, Indimuli called on the government to let the principals, together with BOMs and parents, sort out the matter. Refunding fees is not practicable. We have always worked together with parents and I am sure we can agree on this, Indimuli said. He called on his members who had ordered foodstuff for the whole year to consider selling them and keeping the cash to be used next year. Gatamia said the first term capitation had been released to primary schools where the government gives 1,420 Kenya shillings per learner per year. Education CS George Macharia had confirmed school fees that had initially been paid by parents for the second and third terms will be forwarded to next year. The CS also clarified that the fees for the second and third terms will only be refunded if a parent paid in advance. Some parents had paid school fees in advance. It shall be carried forward to next year. However, fees for term 1 will be considered to have been spent, Macharia added. Speaking during a preparedness inspection tour at the Coast Institute of Technology in Voi, Taita Taveta County on Wednesday, Macharia said the learning center will have to adhere to all government protocols before opening. The CS said that vocational training institutions will be reopened in September. The ministry is closely working with higher education institutions to ensure that learning resumes, he said. The CS said boarding secondary schools shall also be given priority in opening since students will remain in school. Macharia on Tuesday announced 2020 had been virtually wiped off the education calendar. The CS, however, said universities and technical colleges were free to open in September on condition they take all measures to protect students from the spread of COVID-19. The proposal to reopen in September was part of the initial recommendations to President Uhuru Kenyatta by a team established by Macharia in May. But this was quickly followed by a second recommendation in June, instead.